Hey guys, Jinxed here, and today I want to break down a common debate in the PokeMMO community. Do you need 5x31 IVs for PvP? For those who don't know, an IV boosts the related stat by 1 at level 100. This means at level 100, a Pokemon with 31 attack IV will have 31 more attack stat than a Pokemon with 0 attack IV. This effect is halved at level 50, which is where PvP takes place. This means it will only boost the stat by 1 for every 2 IVs at level 50, unless EV trained in that stat. An important note is that if you aren't EV training your Pokemon in that stat, 30 and 31 IV are the exact same at level 50, so you can go with 30 in any non-EV trained stat for PvP and not see any difference. At level 100, they will have 1 stat point difference, but PokeMMO PvP typically doesn't involve level 100s. Now let's start with the most straightforward stat, speed.
I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as fuck, boy.
Obviously there are niches like Trick Room teams or putting 0 speed on a wall to allow you to slow U-turn or something like that, but we're going to discuss the majority of Pokemon who typically want a high speed to go first. Out of all the stats to spend money on, speed is definitely the most worthwhile. Let's say you have a mirror matchup with your Garchomp. You might be in a position where you don't have a good swap left and you need to make a play into the other Garchomp. Let's say yours is a jolly, speed-trained, Choice Scarf Garchomp, but you wanted to save some money so you went with 30 speed instead of 31. A small change to the IV, but in this case, makes it so you have a total speed of 252. You can hope that the opposing Chomp is not a 31 speed Scarf build, but if it is, it'll have 253 speed, and that 1 stat point will cost you the game. Compare this to a situation where yours is 31 speed. Now it's a 50-50 shot where it comes down to a speed tie. Of course, banking on a 50-50 is never a good idea. However, this will come up occasionally, and writing off those games is not worth the savings, in my opinion. This is even more important when it comes to common speed tier Pokemon. Let's say, for example, you have a timid Chandelure in, and you're matched up against a Dragonite who just came in on rocks. These both have a base speed of 80. You know you're faster because you're timid, and 97% of Dragonites don't run Speed Nature, so it should have a speed of 132. You're a Speed Natured Chandelure, and even though you cheaped out on Speed IVs and just have 25 Speed IV, you will still outspeed it with 141 speed. You run the calc and see HP Ice is a guaranteed OHKO, so you go for it. Little did you know this was an off-meta Jolly Dragonite with 31 speed, just outsped you and OHKO'd you with Earthquake. Speed tiers are very important in PvP, due to many Pokemon having the same base speed. This means if you have a base speed of 80 and you cheap out on the Speed IV, you're now guaranteed to go last against every Pokemon in that same speed tier. It's important for those matchups to ensure that you have the maximum speed, because even 1 speed stat difference will cost you games. Attack and special attack are where things get a little less straightforward, since now we're working with percentages. Let's take that same Jolly Dragonite and Timid Chandelure example we were looking at before. Both of these are EV trained in their attack stat and speed. So how low could each go with their attack EV and still be in OHKO range? Let's first look at the Dragonite. We already said it's outspeeding the Chandelure, and it'll go first. But what if this Jolly Dragonite cheaped out on its attack EVs to save some money? Would 25 attack be enough, or even 20? Well, it turns out, in this case, yes. With Stealth Rocks up, even an attack EV-trained Dragonite would OHKO the Chandelure with 0 attack IV. With 31 IV in HP and defenses, after Rocks, the Chandelure will have 101 HP, and the damage range that the Dragonite could do with a 0 attack IV Earthquake is between 118 and 140 damage. If it had 31 attack IV, this would go up to 128 to 152. Both of these OHKO in this case, and the difference between them is 10 to 12 HP. Now you might say, well okay, I'll cheap out on attack then. But what if the Stealth Rocks wasn't up against Chandelure when it came in? This means it now has 135 HP, putting it right in between OHKO range of both the 0 attack Dragonite and the 31 attack Dragonite. However, the 0 attack Dragonite only has an 18.8% chance to OHKO, whereas the more expensive 31 attack IV has a 68.8% chance to land the one-hit knockout. How about a D-Knight who's built competitively, but a little bit on the budget with 25 attack IV? Well, this has a 62.5% chance, with a damage range of 126 to 150. This means the 25 attack build only does 2 HP less than the 31 attack one. Let's take a look at another example. Let's say you're using a Starmie and your opponent hard swaps into a Tyranitar. You can easily assume it's a Pursuit Trapper, and even with 0 attack IV, it will one-hit knockout you if you swap out. So you attack to get some chip in and hopefully survive the pursuit. How much will your special attack IV matter? Well, assuming your timid nature and the T-Tar is 5x31 adamant offensive build, in this case, with 31 special attack IV, if you surf the T-Tar in sand, you'll do 41.7 to 50.4%, or 86 to 104 HP. Compare this to a more budget 25 IV option, and you'll do 40.7 to 49.5%, or 84 to 102 HP. Again, a 2 HP difference with only 1% damage difference. Let's take a look at one more example of this. Let's say you're a timid, speed and special attack trained Scarfed Rotom Wash against a specially defensive Mandibuzz. You know you're guaranteed out speed since you're max speed and a higher speed tier, so you volt switch out instead of hard swapping to chip the opposing Mandibuzz on your way out. Let's compare how this plays out with 31 IV, 25 IV, and even 20 special attack IV Rotom. At 31 IV, your Rotom will do 37 to 44.4% or 80 to 96 HP to the Mandibuzz on the volt switch. At 25 IV, you'll do between 36.1 to 42.5% or 78 to 92 HP, a total difference of 2 to 4 HP between the two builds. Even at 20 IV, you'll still do 34.2 to 41.6% or 74 to 90 HP, which is a difference of 4 to 6 compared to the 31 special attack build. So although your attack stat is typically the one that I'd recommend investing in after speed for a comp, before dumping a ton of money into making a 31 IV comp, consider how often 2 to 4 damage will really make a difference in your matches. If you're a top tier competitive player who rarely makes mistakes and always chooses the best move, this 2 to 4 damage could make or break a match. However, for the majority of us, especially the ones still learning and developing their PvP skills, like myself, the strategy and especially the missed plays will have 1,000 times more impact on your game than 2 to 4 damage will. Now that we've seen the overall impact of cheaping out on speed and attack IVs, how about defense? Let's start by looking at the previous example of a pursuit trapping offensive Tyranitar against the Starmie. For this, we're going to assume the Starmie has 31 special attack in this situation. Now, we said the Starmie would be surfing the Tyranitar, so let's take a look at how much impact the defense on the Tyranitar changes the situation. We already said that if Tyranitar hit the T-Tar, who has 31 HP in special defense, it would do 41.7 to 50.4, or 86 to 104 HP, but what if the T-Tar was a budget comp with only 25 IV in both HP and special defense? That changes the damage to 44.3 to 53.2%, or 90 to 108 HP, a total change of 4 HP, or 2.5% damage. What about for a wall like Impish defensive trained Gliscor? How much would HP and defense IVs impact it? Well, let's say you're matched up against a Scizor and you hard swap into your Gliscor to tank the hit. For this example, we're going to assume that the opposing Scizor is a 31 attack adamant choice bandit build. Let's say the Scizor uses U-turn to pivot out. In this case, if you're using a perfect Gliscor with 252 HP and defense EVs, you would take 16.4 to 19.7% or 30 to 36 damage. But what if you cheaped out and went with 25 HP and defense on Gliscor? In this case, you'd be receiving 17.3 to 20.6%, or 31 to 37 damage. It's literally a 1 HP difference in this case. So the difference in damage taken from cheaping out on both HP and defense is 1. Compare this to the damage roll, which is a range of 6 damage, and this means the damage roll itself has a way bigger impact on the outcome in the match compared to the IV. Which would have a bigger effect in this case, HP or defense? In this case, having 31 defense and 25 HP would change the percent roll to 16.7 to 20.1%, whereas 31 HP and 25 defense would change the roll to 17.0 to 20.3%, meaning that investing in defense EVs will have a bigger impact on the damage reduction compared to HP. For a Pokemon that's on a team for one purpose, like a strict defensive wall, defense EVs makes more sense to invest in. However, these won't help you if you take a special attack, whereas HP investment will. So if you decide to invest in a high defensive stat, decide whether you plan on using it in a strict role or if you want it in more of an all-comer role. In the latter case, you might want to put your points into HP. Let's take a look at one last example, using an offensive versus offensive matchup. Let's say you're using a Weavile and matched up against a Choice Scarf Garchomp. Now you know the Chomp will outspeed you, but you want to kill it and are willing to take some damage to do so. Icicle Spear is a guaranteed OHKO against it, so you go for that. But will you actually get it off before going down? Let's take the case where you're a 5x31 Jolly Weavile. This would mean that you have 145 HP in total. You go for the Icicle Spear and the Chomp uses Earthquake. It outspeeds you and does 83.4 to 99.3% for a damage roll of 121 to 144 HP. You survive and OHKO the Chomp. But what if you cheaped out and went 25 in your defense stats? This time the Chomp is doing 88.7 to 104.2%, or 126 to 148 HP, giving it a 31.3% chance to OHKO you. The 4 to 5 damage difference in this case is actually enough that it severely changes the outcome of the situation, due to putting you in that OHKO range. This is a 31.3% chance that the Chomp survives unscathed, and you are down a Pokemon. If you'd invested in just one 31 IV, you could have brought this chance down to 18.8% with 31 HP and 25 defense IVs, or even a 12.5% chance with 25 HP and 31 defense IVs. So you can see that while the majority of cases are very minor changes, like 1 to 5 HP, that won't really make a difference in like 99% of your matches, there are some edge cases where those cheaper IVs can push you over breaking points and cause an OHKO where it wouldn't have been possible otherwise. So now that we've seen the impact of 25 versus 31 IV, let's see why you might consider cheaping out on it a little bit. On average, a 5x31 natured Pokemon is going to cost you about 900k to 1 mil each. This means making one full team is going to cost you close to 6 mil. If you're doing efficient money making like gym rerunning, let's say at 400k per hour, this means you're going to take 15 hours of grinding to get one single team. Then if you try to make a change or try a different team, that's another 1 mil per Pokemon or 6 mil per new team. For a lot of players, this might not seem like a big deal because money making can be satisfying and enjoyable. However, a lot of PvP oriented players might just want to play PvP, and it's not really worth grinding 15 hours per team. Also, for a player new to PvP, 6 mil is a massive investment into something you don't even know if you're going to enjoy, or if the team will even work in the way you think it will, or if it'll even match your playstyle. It can take a lot of matches to understand what playstyle you prefer in PvP, so spending this kind of money on a team can be a massive barrier to entry. What if instead you tried teams out with 31 speed and 31 attack and 25 plus in all your other stats? The average cost of these is about 300 to 400k and can be bred for even less than that, meaning a team is usually going to cost you less than 2 mil, which is about 5 hours of efficient money making. While this is still a lot for some people, it's a significantly lower barrier to entry and also makes it much easier to swap out Pokemon if you don't like the way that they're performing in your team. You can build 2 to 3 full PvP teams at 2x31, 3x25 for every one team of 5x31 Pokemon. Once you're climbing the ranks and understand the mechanics of your team and want to push into higher ranks, you might want to upgrade your main team to 5x31s to compete at the highest level, but don't feel like you need a 5x31 to compete. In a game where damage rolls often range from 20 to 40 damage, I can guarantee that 1 to 5 damage really won't make or break your games. Thank you guys so much for watching. If this video helped you out, consider giving it a like and subscribing to help me grow this channel further and reach more people with these kind of videos. I appreciate any and all support, whether it's just subscribing or if you have the means and want to go above and beyond with a YouTube membership for as little as $1 a month. Thank you so much to our current supporters, either here on YouTube or subscribers on Twitch. Feel free to come hang out live with me, usually on Friday nights MST. I'm streaming both here on YouTube and on Twitch, so please stop by and say hi. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.